Well, I don't know if I'm gonna get here. No. Okay. Well, there we go. See, I have my copy of the Brian Pillman. So after you said after the first show, you knew you were going to do a second one. How much more work went into building the second show, and did you know ideally of who you wanted to or what you wanted that show to be? Because you knew that the audience was going to be bigger. You knew you needed a bigger venue. So how much more planning went into building the Pillman show, the next
Well,
one?
we ran the cruiserweight tournament,
Hmm.
to add something to it there. And the other thing that we were doing as well at the time, I had started my first year of I had a 3 hour block on Clear Channel All Sports,
Hmm.
1360 channel in Cincinnati. We were doing a 3 hour block on Wednesday night called Wednesday Night Main Event, right? Having guests on and that sort of thing. So we were covering the second show from opening from noon
Hmm.
until the evening, right? And having a lot of the wrestling celebrities on to say something, and the whole 9 yards. So it was a whole nother ballgame completely. Now the third year we didn't do the whole,
Hmm.
from open to close, because obviously they had other things to put on there that made sense. But yeah, it got a little different every year, depending. They didn't want us back at Schmidt Fieldhouse at Xavier University because our people parked and other people that, well, Xavier University in Cincinnati is right in a a neighborhood, right?
Hmm.
So, and we had a lot of people there, and we're running without places to park, so they didn't want us. So anyway, so we were at a different place every year, so we had to kind of set things up differently, right? So
Hmm. So the second year, did it? You knew you wanted Flair. You knew you wanted Austin. How did Mysterio and Conan and Malenko and bit like? How did all? Did you reach out to them, or did they just start reaching out to you?
well, I knew it was going to be at least the top three companies, right? Plus
Hmm.
the best talent from Heartland, the best talent from OVW, right? And and call it whatever's the opening set or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, so we worked on it, and of course, a lot of it was getting guys that weren't busy at that particular date, right? So
Hmm.
we didn't have any flexibility about that. Like I say, the second year, we never had Benoit, we never had Jericho again because he was busy with the other things. And there were guys that we wanted to get and couldn't, for one reason or another. So it was, but like I said, the crazy thing was there was not a problem with independent talent.
Hmm.
I'll pay you to work on your show. Well, that's great, but I got no place to put you. We're going from 12 noon day of until almost midnight that evening. So unless we add another day or another couple hours, I don't have any place to put you.
You mentioned that you wanted to send that the main event, or you wanted to talk about. I messed that up. Bah. You mentioned Regal and Benoit, and you asked Regal if you could send that to the office, and Regal was having issues at that time. Regal was in a different state at this time, like he was getting back to his old
Just
self.
yeah, back on the main roster, yes. And he felt, I didn't know if it would help him, but I
Hmm.
thought, damn, if you don't want this guy up on your main roster after watching this, then I don't know what to tell you, right? I want him. I'll keep him, if you don't want him. But yeah, it was, in other words, it wasn't us. It was we happened to be the place that they had the match. The
Hmm.
match was what did the job, right? It wasn't,
Yeah.
but I when I put the match together, a couple of guys said, Regal and Benoit. I said, yeah. I said, bring pencil and paper. You're going to school
Yeah.
because I knew,
Hmm.
I knew what I was getting. Uh, So yeah, but you know what? All the matches were entertaining.
Yeah.
Everybody worked hard. Uh, you know, it was a great time. Well, the second year when we
Hmm.
were at Cincinnati Gardens, which is no, by the way, Cincinnati Gardens was torn down a number of years ago. But anyway, Flair and McFoley, were having a, a, a feud of words, on social media. Not a problem, you know.
Mm-mm.
They're both professional. They both, in the same dressing room. Nothing, you know. Everybody was, on their good behavior. Everybody worked their asses off. Even those who normally wouldn't work their asses off worked their asses off.
So you knew that you were going to run a third year after the success of the second year.
Yeah, yeah. I knew I wanted to go the third time, and I knew I wanted to go the fourth time, right?
Hmm. And these two
But then
cards were more stacked than the first two. The third and the fourth had a lot more to them.
yeah, yeah, a lot more. Well, like I mentioned, we had like 4 or 5 guys for photographs the first year, and we had 10, I think
Hmm.
10 different photographers working the last year, right? To get shots with, get your Polaroids with. I wish I had somebody had taken a picture of the photo at Schmidt Fieldhouse when we did Xavier the third year. Schmidt Fieldhouse, there wasn't a place in there. So we used the Army National Guard Armory next door, right?
Hmm.
And somebody had gotten a shot, a wide angle shot of how full that damn armory floor was with, people lined up to have their pictures taken. It was like there was a separate show going on over there, you know. But
And
it was,
that third show was, Eddie Guerrero and D'Lo Brown versus Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, Justin Incredible versus Raven, Shane Douglas did a little segment with DDP, Vampiro versus Bill DeMott. Like, there's so much talent that
yes,
came. Kidman and Disco Inferno versus Rana Don Harris. It's just so many names.
yeah,
They were like little WrestleManias, but they weren't little. They were huge. This
yeah,
was
yeah.
like this was big indie shows before big indie shows were a thing. You
And
created that.
yeah, I don't know about that, but I was so surprised that we had people. Well, like for the training sessions, we had people in from Oklahoma, for Christ's sake, coming in to be a part of that. It was crazy. I
And
mean,
that was early days of the internet, so like that
yeah,
word of mouth was like to get to Oklahoma and to get up there. I mean that's pretty cool that year three that everyone since year one wanted to be a part of this, but by year three it was
yeah,
massive.
yeah. No, the reason after the fourth year, I realized a bunch of these guys had been to every damn show for 4 years, right? They're giving up their free time. They could be laying around at home having a beer,
Hmm.
laying in the sun, doing what the hell ever they wanted to do, instead of being in Cincinnati wrestling their asses off for free, right? For
Hmm.
for a meal in a hotel room. Uh, but that's the other thing too, that all the companies kicked in too, right? I
Hmm.
mean, when WWE was paying trans airline for these guys, so was WCW.
Hmm.
So everybody jumped on board. Well, they didn't have much choice, right? I
Hmm.
mean, they were in competition, but part of that competition was, did you see where so and so didn't send any guys to the Pillman show, but so and so did, right?
Hmm.
Really? So yeah, so everybody pitched. Yeah, it was a combined effort. It truly was. But when it came down after the fourth year, these guys, were
Hmm.
stretching these guys. And Melanie had remarried by this time.
Hmm.
So there wasn't a huge need for her to, financially. So, and some of the guys, mentioned this. So I thought, yeah, we've got to hang it. This is it. We pushed the envelope past. We started one little show, and this is three shows later. Yeah, we need, because it was the same guys,
Hmm.
mostly jumping on the bandwagon and coming back. And I was, like I say, Benoit would have been in the main event of all four had it not
Hmm.
been for the neck surgery. So, uh, and some of these, there were guys there every year. A lot of the same guys were back and happy to come back. That was the thing. Well, that first year with Chris Benoit, he called me a few weeks afterwards. He said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "If you'll send me one of the VIP ticket passes, right, that we had,
Hmm.
I lost my copy, and send me. I'll send you another $300 to donate to the Pillman Fund." I said, "You don't have to send me another dime, son.
Hmm.
You paid your dues. Son. You paid your dues." But yeah, so I mean, the guys wanted to help out, you know,
Hmm.
and, and that was the thing. The guys that wanted to be there were. Now, were there guys that probably, if we'd asked for them, they'd, "Oh, well, that's my day off. I don't want to know." And I
Hmm.
didn't, I don't want to force anybody. And that was a cool thing too. I mean, we go out, after the show was over in the evening, we'd go, to a bar someplace and drink a couple beers or the night before, well, that last year, we were they were doing karaoke in the bar next door to the hotel, right? A lot of the wrestlers that were involved and everything. But it was again, everybody coming together for a good cause. And I've got a letter at home that I've kept from uh, Brian Brian's mother, saying how much she, cared that, what we'd done that honor her son and everything like that. So I never expected it to be that big, never expected it to grow the way it did and to get the reputation that it had. And would have loved to kept going, but like I say, you can only ask guys so much. Give me some time. Well, I've given you 4 years. How much more time do you need? And
Hmm.
again, Melanie had remarried and everything like that. So, but yeah, it was it was special. It truly was.
It truly, yeah, it truly was. The fourth one, it seemed like there was a lot more developmental people being able to work with main roster stars too. So that was a good experience and be able to show their talent because all eyes were on the Brian Pillman show. So how was it like bringing developmental talents to work with main roster talents? Did you help set
Well,
those
well, that
matches
was,
up?
that was part of it too. We could match guys up like that.
Hmm.
And that last year, I was with WWE as a
Hmm.
trainer. So they had spies in they had eyes in the sky, right, so to speak. There were guys there watching what we did, and it just, which I had no problem with. It wasn't like we were selling drugs out the back door or something, right? I mean, we were all, I threatened to put like a petameter on, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I had a kid that was when I first started training guys, that he came down for the first 3 years. He couldn't make it the fourth. And we had walkie talkies, right? And he was walking with me while I'm covering you. Okay, concessions are good. Okay, well, how about this here? Hey, they want you such and such. Somebody needs to know this or that. I was curious how many damn miles I walked in the course of a show day, right?
Hmm.
Around that damn arena to be sure everything was where it should be, when it should be there, and so forth and so on. But like I say, it was labor of love. It truly
Hmm.
was, you know. And wow, just great, man. And you showed the picture of the DVD. it's a 4 disc set over 15 hours of content on all 4 discs. All four of the shows are there. A lot of the auction footage and all that sort. And there's so many. I don't even know how. There must be 10,000 friggin' small interviews in the background, right? I mean, I haven't seen them all. I'm weary. I can't watch anymore. But yeah, I know it was Les Thatcher, but it wasn't. It was so many people were so involved, and I love them all for it. I mean, it was just, it was. I miss doing those shows, believe it or
Hmm.
not, as stressful as they could be. I miss doing them because I knew at the end what it was going to be like, right?
Hmm. Did everyone know that this was going to be the final one, or did they ask? Were fans asking when's the fifth one?
No, we never made an announcement at any of them that wait till next year, you
Hmm.
know. But like I say, I knew when I saw the Regal Benoit match that that was main event for year 4, whether if they were both still alive by that time.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it was no, it was each year. But like I say, after the fourth one, and I realized I'm getting a lot of the same people coming back, and I never want to push our luck, because I
Yeah.
realized these guys could be at home, right?
Hmm.
Licking their wounds, resting up, not wrestling again on my day off for nothing, right? For some chicken and mashed potatoes and a hotel room. But yeah, everybody that worked for us in those shows busted their hump. They did, and I couldn't be more appreciative and so much love and respect for everybody that gave of their time. And well, the volunteers, I mentioned the 8 people that were on my committee.
Hmm.
They were there every Monday. We had a meeting for 8 months out, right, starting a second year, uh, and they gave up a lot of time. They could have been with their families or friends doing something else. So yeah, it was a joint effort of everybody involved, and the wrestlers, the most part, because they all work for nothing or for a
Hmm.
few chicken breasts and mashed potatoes in a hotel room, I guess. But it was I loved it. I thought, damn, another one's over.
Hmm.
got to got to get ready for next year now. Right?
Was the Pillman family in attendance for all these events, or?
Well, Melanie, the widow, she was the kids, you know, his mother didn't come to any of the shows. Uh, the new husband came to the last show,
Hmm.
uh, which was kind of funny, a little bit.
Hmm.
Well, but I understand too. Like I'm here, they're celebrating this man whose wife I married,
Hmm.
right? And they're looking at me like, oh, this guy, who's this guy? And those guys are a lot bigger than me, right? And there's more of them than there are of me. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, there was never any problems like that. Melanie could be a handful occasionally because she had ideas that I don't think you could have done at Super Bowl, never mind at a Pillman show.
Hmm.
But yeah. But overall, I'm proud of the shows. I'm proud of what we did, what we accomplished, and the fact that they are there. And the anthology, Joe and I worked on those suckers to get. That was one of the biggest runs Joe's had in any type of
Hmm.
video shows he's put out. And I'm, but you know what? It's something I think everybody should see because, like you say, nothing's like happened like that before
Hmm.
that, and nothing's happened like that since.
No.
There's been little individual shows for different people, but never anything it's come together quite like that. And I think that's basically it was back during the Monday Night Wars, but it was also uh, that all the promotions were being seen at the same time,
Hmm.
so it's like, okay, well, if WWE is going to do this, then we got to jump in and help too. And then if WCW and okay, and then ECW's got to help out as well, right?
Hmm.
So, and of course, then what we called the independent showcase was the OVW guys and the HWA guys, plus a couple Mavericks from outside of there. We had people in from Canada to be on these shows.
Hmm.
I mean, wrestlers from Calgary, right? Referees from Calgary that wanted to be a part of these damn shows.
Now, before you released this, had it been released prior to this anthology, or did
No,
people always want
there's
a
some
copy?
outlaw stuff floating around out there that, but no, the anthology is Brian Jr. signed off on it. He gets a piece of the action, the fact, and other than that, yeah, it's the only official one. There's some bootleg stuff out there floating around, but this is the only one that's, excuse me, Brian. In fact, as you know, on this one, Brian and I opened the show with some remembrances and photographs of Brian as a 2 or 3 year old hanging out with Rey Mysterio, who looked to be 12 years old. So, but yeah, yeah, it was, and speaking of Brian, man, has he grown as a wrestler since he's gone to
Hmm.
NXT. I mean, he really has. His dad to be proud of him. He's not trying to be Brian Jr. He's just being somebody. I
Hmm.
mean, you can see his dad in him. My God, he looks
Oh
just
yeah.
like the man. He passes his younger brother, for God's sakes. But yeah, Brian's standing up on his own 2 feet. I'm happy to see that. I really, because he and I had that conversation. He called me when he came. He trained at the Lance Storm, and when he came home, he called me. He said, "Well, Steve Austin and Lance said you got Les Thatcher lives right there. Why don't you call him?" Yeah, why don't you call him? But I told him, I said, because of who your dad is, but you're gonna get a lot of smoke blowing up your rear end, right? People are gonna they're gonna want to use you, but just be extremely careful, you know.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's doing Lexi King. Yeah, he's doing real good for himself. I'm happy for him.
So how did this anthology come to be? Like, what did people reach out over the years wanting a copy of this, or because it was talked about? What made you finally release it?
Well, to be able to put everything under one, we had taped those shows,
Hmm.
and like year one, that's Shark Boy that's doing the voiceovers with me, Dean Roll. That's
Hmm.
that's Shark that did the voiceovers with me on that. And we were a wrestling school in a promotion, right? It wasn't about selling tapes and this and that and everything. So this was a way to, and so many people had heard about the show that didn't know anything about the show, right? Well, it's like Masada when I was doing a camp at Harley's, when he was doing his week-long Noah camps a number of years ago. And I had on one of the Pillman T-shirts one night at dinner, and the young man that was with Masada, his tag team partner, I can't remember his name. God love him. Said, "Oh yes, I know that shirt. I see them all in Japan." I said, and Harley that I told him I promoter. Oh, you yeah, okay, but yeah, this the show reached mythical, stories but it was special, and like I say, it's just and once we got started, I can't wait till the next one to see
Hmm.
what's going to be special next year, right? Because each year there was something that made that each show stand out.
And you were like one. I feel like you were one of the first for developmental, especially. It seemed like you recorded everything, and you did
Well,
interviews,
yeah,
and
well,
you like you
we
documented
recorded the
so
house
much.
shows.
Hmm.
Well, now the reason I started doing that too is when I mentioned you on the earlier taping that before I got that whole crew out of Memphis, I got tapes, so I knew they were taping their house shows. So I tried to tape as many of those as I could as well. So there was one young man, Bob, I can't remember his last name, one of the people that worked in talent relations, who said to me when he made one of the rounds, he said, he said, I would think that you probably shoot to have 16 shows in the course of a month. And when they cut the ties with us, we were doing 16 shows, including our four TVs, in the course of a month as well. So yeah, we were doing a dozen shows plus the four TVs. So yeah,
Hmm.
I was proud that I had a hell of a crew. I did. I can't say enough good things about those guys. I mean, all the little petty stuff that you're going to have. You got all that testosterone, and I want to be a star, and I want to move up from here. I'm going to step in somebody's face to get past them, and this and that. It's going to happen. It does.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had a hell of a crew, and I still see quite a few of them and hang out a little bit. It's well, a few years ago, Dr. Tom and I I went with Dr. Tom down to Brad Armstrong's gravesite on the anniversary of his passing because I watched that damn kid grow up for Christ's sake. And yeah, sure. Alan Funk, Kwee
Hmm.
Lash LaRue both of them showed up and we hung out and sat and talked about the good old days and all that. Yeah, yeah.
So to wrap up Brian Pillman Memorial, what are some of your favorite moments during those 4 years and stuff that you're proudest of for doing these events?
Wow. Well, probably the things we've talked about over the last couple of shows of that, the Benoit Regal match, the special things that happen, you
Hmm.
know, Brian Hildebrand refereeing that main event. He said, well, if I can't make it, you can help carry me to the back, that sort. Guys who are willing to push. That's a commodity that I think is, I don't have a school any longer, but I do weekend camps or one day seminars. But to see kids that really have it here
Hmm.
in their heart, you know, uh, now it's well, oh, I want to go to Brussels and I want to go to Ireland and I want to go to Paris and uh, I never got to any of those places, right? I got to Little Rock and Sevierville and
Hmm.
things like that, but never got to Paris or Brussels or any of those places. But yeah, it's the business has changed, but you can tell the guys who their heart is really they love the business.
Hmm.
Dusty Rhodes is looking down at Cody and Dustin and saying, "Yeah, they're my boys. They're my
Hmm.
boys, right?" And those are the kind of guys that are on top for a reason. They're on top because they're willing to go out there and give everything from here, from their
Hmm.
heart and their soul to hang it out there and hope you grab on to a piece of it and go along for the ride. And yeah, there are kids now that are they're I don't know what they're thinking.
Hmm.
They're not thinking. I'm not sure which. But yeah, it's a different time, and it's going to continue to be a different time. It's a whole nother ball game. Uh, but I still get a chance. When Nigel McGuinness wrestled Zack Sabre Jr., I got to see the tape. I thought, yeah, best match of the damn night, wasn't it? It sure the hell was. For those that don't know, McGuinness is one of my babies, one of my
Hmm.
children, one of my kids. Yeah.
Have has everyone always associated you along with Pillman all these years? Like your names go side by side?
Yeah. Well, I'm amazed that, there's a tape floating around that I put out once with Ron Fuller, which when we were doing the Smoky Mountain shows here, right?
Hmm.
The Night of Legends, you've seen that tape or
Hmm.
you've heard about it, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the next day, I took Terry and Dory Jr., the Funk Brothers, into a studio and we did an hour. No show to sell, no match to build up, just to talk about the business, past, the present, and where do you think it's going. This was taped in 1994.
Hmm.
It's floating around out there, and you can still buy copies of it too. But uh, yeah, that's to me, stuff like that is historical stuff. Need there needs to be more of that.
Hmm.
This before me, I started this crazy run in 1960, but I've been watching since the late 40s, right? I've been a fan since I was born in 1940. Became a fan around 1949, 48, 49. And there's so much colorful history, so many colorful. There were guys back in the day who would get fired tomorrow if they worked for one of these tight butt corporations, right? That you
Hmm.
can't do that, you can't do this, you can't breathe deeply, and you don't wink with your left eye, wink with your right eye, and they wouldn't make it.
Hmm.
But they were damn great, talented wrestlers. They really were, and so much fun to work with. And it's the kids that didn't get to go for that ride just missed a hell of a ride, is all I can tell you. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Thank goodness for people like yourself who documented all this stuff. And now people, this is like gold to them now, especially kids now that are learning and stuff. This is stuff, like these shows is stuff that they should be studying because there's so many different variety of people, of talent, of moves, of styles, all within these four shows that you did.
Yeah, yeah, there is. Well, there's so many things. Several of the trainers, myself being one of them, uses the Buddy Rogers Pat O'Connor match from 1961, the title match in Comiskey Park in Chicago, which was the biggest house in the history of the sport at that particular time, right? But
Hmm.
watch that match. You got two master painters that are painting that picture there, O'Connor and Rogers. Rogers was my childhood idol. O'Connor I had the opportunity to work with. In fact, the second fall where Buddy grabs the rope and Pat lands on his head,
Hmm.
right? You know what I'm talking about. Okay, I did that same finish with Pat O'Connor grabbing the ropes on me in St. Louis television. Yeah. And I knew, I was sick, being a Buddy Rogers fan, and this was early in my career. I'm 5 years in, maybe, or something like that. Oh, this is going to be really cool. I'm doing the Buddy Rogers finish, right? But yeah, there's so many great stories and histories to the business. It's a shame, that there's not something to honor all that, and some kind of order, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, it's the good old days were actually not. Maybe they weren't so good, but they sure were a lot of fun, right?
Absolutely.